to welcome you all this morning, and very good to see Rabbi Black back again, and looking forward to hearing your thought for the day.
Right, this is my little thought for the day. Good morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all. I might do a little bit of a share. I hope you don't mind me doing this. I've just arrived back from the Big Apple yesterday, and I thought it's appropriate. Big Apple, by the way, for those who don't know, it's New York. And I thought it's appropriate just to reflect on my little 4-day trip to New York City. And this is just a little few ideas. I might sort of like share some pictures. If you don't like Chabad Lubavitch, you had better turn off now. Now we're going to lose half the people now. No, okay, just a joke. But I used my little trip to recharge my batteries and used it as an opportunity to meet up with old friends and to catch up. My best years in yeshiva were in the 80s in America. And in those days, the late Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, Zecher Tzadik V'Kadosh Livracha, was still alive. And the place, Crown Heights, 770 Eastern Parkway, the headquarters of Chabad Lubavitch, was an exciting hub of vibrancy. I can see there's two people. There we are. They're all in now. So it's many years since the Rebbe's passing. And has it changed much? That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to spend a Shabbat there to see it. Was the place still a hub? Was it still alive? Is it still alive? So the unbelievable thing was that over the Shabbat that we were there, I was astonished to see that the place was just as vibrant, just as exciting, if not more so than when I left there. So I just want to show you one or two pictures of this. I hope you don't mind. Share screen. Here's outside 770, and you see a picture of me. You can see me and a few other people. There's my son over there, and a few other Chabad friends who were with us at this particular time. And let me just show you some other things. Hold on, if I can get onto it. Here's a nice one. Here we are. Can you see that? Have you got that? You can see that one? No, maybe not. Maybe let me just come out of there. Stop share and come out again. Hold on. And
we could see it, if you could see it.
Oh, the one with, you saw the one with my son? Let me just show you.
Yeah.
Hold on, there we are. That's me and my son in the middle of 770 on a normal day. And you can see there's about 200-300 people behind us. And in front of us, there were even more. And then I wanted just to show you that this is like a bit of a surprise that happened over here. I've got to get out of here. Stop share, come out again. And this is something that happened as we came out. And once I've got to optimize for a little video clip, which is really funny. This is really quite funny because there's my son. Hold on. There we are.
Hey everyone, this is 717. There's a
That's me.
Look, someone just got married.
Just walked outside and there was a marriage taking place.
Beautiful. Nice. Look, someone's getting married outside 770.
Here we are outside 770 and there's a chuppah.
Okay, that was really fun. I have to say, that was just one of the many things. So that's a wonderful thing to just come outside 770 and be there at a chuppah. So I just thought that was interesting. And this is just like 770 on the normal morning. Yeah, you can see how many people are there. It's like really, really packed with people. Unbelievable. Okay, so I just thought I'd share that with you because I thought that was really nice. So Friday night, I sat next to my old friends, the Spielman family, who are distant relatives of ours. Actually, distant relative of my sister-in-law. It's quite interesting. And they warned me to hold on to my seat. Don't move, otherwise I would lose it. They were right. I'm not very good at estimating crowds, but there was something in the region of 2,000 people there for Kabbalat Shabbat. It was standing room only. Over the time I was there, people, hundreds of people were there, coming and going in from all corners of the world. It wasn't a special event, just a regular Shabbos in 770, but it was alive and it was vibrant. Singing, dancing, davening, learning, lots of eating, as Jews do. There was a fantastic Kiddush on Shabbat morning, which lasted for about 2 or 3 hours, and people sat down and really had a lot of l'chaims. 1 or 2 people got a bit tipsy, but we won't go into that. I expect at the moment our minds are focused so much on the Ukraine and what's going on over there. Chabad Lubavitch, as usual, have been doing quite a lot of things over there, serving the 240,000 plus Jews who are over there. I don't know if it's all there now, but there are over 150 Chabad centers, including actually in Dnepropetrovsk. If I said it wrong, apparently the biggest Jewish center in the world, Chabad had built it. But they have had to flee for their lives. The Chabad Shluchim office, the central Shluchim office, had directed them now to leave. And I have been watching all week videos of various Chabad rabbis who have managed to get out with some of their congregants, their families and their congregants. Some had to flee to Moldova and others were Romania and everything else. And from there, officials from the Israeli embassy, and I witnessed this, is very interesting. I thought of putting this little video on. They boarded the bus to tell them that Israel would make sure that they would come safely to Eretz Israel, which I think is absolutely wonderful, quite an emotional thing. Or they interviewed a shalucha, a Chabad Lubavitch rabbi, the wife of a Lubavitch rabbi, who tearfully said that she was so happy to be able to get out with her family and others. However, she was so upset for the people, the elderly Jews, that she had to leave behind. She didn't know what was in store for them. And hopefully there would be a time when they would be able to return to continue to look after them and their spiritual needs. I'm not a spokesperson for Chabad, but they must be in a very difficult situation indeed. There are countless Shluchim, Chabad emissaries in Ukraine, but also in Russia, who are looking after the Jewish community there as well. They need to be careful not to get involved in the politics, and they don't. Indeed, Rabbi Beryl Buzar, the chief rabbi of Russia, who was in yeshiva with me, is quite close to Vladimir Putin, but they have a vital mission to look after the Jews there, and that's what they're there for. So what do I take out of this? The Rebbe Zichron Livracha passed away 27 years ago, but Chabad Lubavitch just keeps rolling along and doing their goodness in the world. We can take a good message from this. Don't be despondent. We can always grow. We can go Mechael El Chayil from strength to strength, and we should continue to do so. All keep well. Thank you. That's my little message.
Thank you so much, Rabbi, for sharing your experiences and thoughts about returning to New York and what a vibrant place it was, certainly. And also, of course, to Ukraine that we think of all the time, the plight of, particularly of the Jewish communities there, and the uncertainty for them in going to a new country, and also those that are elderly and have to be left there in Ukraine, and we think of them at the time.
Yes, my next talk will be about the Staten Island ferry and the enjoyment I had about that. That was good in New York City. It was great. Okay, I better go because I've got to get on to other things. Yes. But lovely to see you. Lovely.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. All the best. Keep well. Yeah. Now, it's a great pleasure to introduce Leigh Lewis once more, who's going to give us his special take on the news this week. And there certainly is a lot of items, I'm sure. So we look forward to hearing Leigh's viewpoints. Thank you very much, Leigh.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, my top hasn't come out as I wanted it to. It is a blue and yellow striped top, which is no guessing for why I'm wearing that. Without ignoring Ukraine, because you can't ignore it, but I want to look at other news, because other news is what is around us and affects us. And despite these strange times, there have been some really surprising and strange, weird stories. Story was in the local press last week about a development, yet another building development in the Wembley Park area for 470 odd or more accommodation places, i.e. flats. And they're going to be 2 blocks of flats. One's going to be 13 stories high, and one's going to be 21 stories high. And these are going to be built either on or over, I'm not sure which, the Wembley Park Station car park. They're enormous, 21 stories, and the people are up in arms about it. But what was bothering me was that when somebody complained to one of the Tory councillors about it, the Tory councillor's reply was, "You don't like it, move, go somewhere else." And I didn't think that was a really good reply, but it fits in with some other stories I've heard this week which haven't made the news, but friends of mine have told me about their own experiences. Some of them have complained about how their shul bills have gone up, and the response has been, "Don't like it, go somewhere else." And another friend of mine who was querying his medical records with his doctor, and the doctor said to him, "You don't like the practice, go somewhere else." I mean, is that the answer today, that if somebody complains, doesn't like it, they're told, "Go away, I'm not interested, go somewhere else"? So I thought that was really not a really nice way to treat people or anything else. So the world hasn't become better. But talking about accommodation, there was an article in the papers about the smallest flat in London. This is a flat which is 75 square feet and is in Clapton. 75 square feet is tiny. Apparently it's got a single bed, some storage, a microwave, a wet room, a sink, a shower, and a towel rail. And it's bought by a German investor last month for £90,000. You just think, oh, is the world coming to this, where you buy a box and pay £90,000 because you need somewhere to live? But as I said, the world's gone mad. Yesterday, this must be the strangest story of the week. Yesterday, Nicola Sturgeon, who is the First Minister of Scotland, apologises to people who were accused of witchcraft. And you just think, what is going on here? What is going on? And it's apologising for people, apologising to people who were accused of witchcraft between the 16th, 17th and 18th centuries. Many of them were executed. There was this big purge on people who were, you just think, is that really something that's important in this day and age? Apologising for people who were accused of witchcraft. I mean, it just, anyway. But if you're going to talk about MPs, then of course the one to avoid is John Bercow. John Bercow, who has been barred forever from the Palace of Westminster for bullying. The reporters found out that when he was Speaker, he was a serial bully. That's not bad for the Speaker of the House of Commons, is it? That's not bad. And just to show that how fit people should be, I don't know if any of you, I'm sure we're all fitness fanatics, but sort of. I mean, my exercise regime is 50 eyelids one morning and then 50 eyelids to press ups the next morning. But what they've found is Fitbits have recalled their Ionic watch because it actually overheats and burns your skin. That's really good. You put on a watch to keep fit and you end up getting more unfit than anything else. So that we do live in really weird times. North Korea, who I did speak about last week, when I mentioned, I think, or the week before, where I spoke about while Russia are doing what they're doing, North Korea are also taking a very watchful eye over the situation. They have been building at their nuclear test site. Building has increased and has been started all over again at their nuclear test site. And earlier in the week, they actually were one of their Navy vessels was intercepted by the South Korean Navy for encroaching in their waters. So there is a problem going on there. North Korea are obviously watching very carefully as to how much Russia can get away with. But South Korea isn't whiter than white. South Korea has got this forthcoming general election, and the biggest problem in South Korea politically is misogyny. Majority of the men not only do not want women in high positions, they actually are canvassing against women holding public office and all this, as they see it as a threat to their freedoms, their way of getting on. A woman's place is in the home, and that's what they're actually canvassing on these lines. It's an absolute disgrace. On a sad note, we had the passing of Linda Barron, who was an actress aged 82. I'm sure many of us of the right age will remember her from the program Open All Hours, and very many others. She was also in Doctor Who, Last of the Summer Wine, and also a whole load of others. She was also in the film Yentl. Very fine, very attractive lady, very fine actress. Unfortunately, sadly, she has passed away at the age of 82. Back because of the Ukraine, on to sort of come back to that. It's interesting how the sporting world has nearly all unified in supporting the Ukraine. It's been amazing to watch the football matches with all the banners and the support and the captains over the weekend wearing yellow and blue armbands. But Formula One also has done its bit. It has terminated the Formula One organization has terminated its contract with Russia for holding the Russian Grand Prix. So that won't happen. Interestingly, the Haas Formula One team have actually sacked or terminated the contract of their Russian driver and also their main sponsor, because his father is one of the oligarchs. And so they've cut the funding of that. And Russian drivers have been banned from competing in the United Kingdom. So there is a whole load of things which people are doing. It's all very interesting. There's all sorts of strange other things that are going on. There's some good news, there's some bad news, but ultimately it all comes back to the taxpayer. We're always encouraged to look around to see where you get your energy from. And the Bulb Energy Company was one of those until it went Mechula. And it's going to cost the taxpayer billions more than it was originally thought to bail it out and to make amends for it. But that's enough of the news. Just one thing, to me, the highlight of the news that shows that all is right with the world. And when I heard the news, I punched the air in happiness, and it was wonderful. The news on Monday night, and that was Tottenham Hotspur 5, Everton 0. You can't get better than that. Good morning, everybody. Have a good week.
Thank you so much, Leigh, for your highlighting the various news items, and some of which we're familiar with. If I'd like to comment, actually, this seems to be policy of some London boroughs, actually, to build flats on station car parks, and there's an inquiry going on for Stanmore car park, I understand.
Wow.
So it might be interesting for those people in Wembley to get in touch with, because I know Bob Blackman's leading the appeal there.
Oh, wow. That Stanmore car park.
Yes.
Wow.
And so that's been referred, I think, to the Mayor of London.
Okay.
But what is the objection to giving people homes to live in? A tower block of 22 stories high gives many people a chance of having a home as opposed to living in a cardboard box somewhere. So there's two sides to every story.
That's right, absolutely, yes.
It also depends on the area. If you look at the Wembley Park area, it also looks, you have to look at the area. Wembley Park is now tower blocks. It's apartment city. I mean, it's and it affects everything else, but they're not putting in parking places. So these people mustn't have cars, are expected to use public transport. And that's part of the problem. And the infrastructure, if you're going to have all these people, you need more doctors, you need more schools, you need more policing, and they haven't got them. And that is what is creating the problem. Apart from it being tower blocks and tower blocks and tower blocks. We don't want a concrete city. Wembley and the Kenton and the whole area is suburbia, green fields and trees, and that's what we want. By getting rid of all those, you change the whole structure of the area, and the infrastructure isn't right for it.
Yeah. I think there was just one thing. I did read in the Brent and Kilburn Times about the Conservative councillor's comments about, if you can't afford it. He didn't actually, I think he was saying that people who were needing to have their accommodation in the private sector, either renting or purchasing, because the prices were high locally, those people's families would be, children and so on, would be living further out. And therefore, if more affordable accommodation was available further out, people who were having social housing might need to consider that. I think it wasn't saying that, no, I think it was saying that it really should be a level playing field regarding that, because people's children locally weren't able, who were, so it shouldn't be automatic that just because you were living in the area or you had links there that you were entitled to a home in the area, because that's why it's pushing up the intensity of the housing. It wasn't said, I don't think that's just a comment there.
I know what you're saying, but I think that the quality of the housing isn't so good. Build in the right places. Take some of the office blocks that are empty, or innumerable office blocks that are all around the area, and do something with those and make it affordable. Putting up more flats and more flats and more flats doesn't solve the problem. But Brent are doing that to fund their social project. That's not a criticism, that's an observation.
No, what I'm saying is that
but they have to, I know what you're saying, is that he didn't mean it in the way I said.
Yeah.
I'm very well aware of that. But that's the poetic license I have of being able to say what I want to say.
Yeah. Thanks. If I may make one further comment about the Russians, you're talking about Formula One and the football. Well, in classical music, it's been quite a lot, not exactly a controversy, but a number of Russian conductors, for example, in Rotterdam and in other countries, have had their contracts stopped. Because they were given 3 days to actually explain to the management if they were pro Putin or not. And because they didn't answer, then they've had their contracts withdrawn. So it's quite a big thing in the classical music at the moment. So a lot of Russian musicians will not be playing in the rest of the world, let's put it that way.
But also the Russian ballet tour was
That's
cancelled.
right, we've cancelled as well, yes.
And the one thing I was talking to Morris about it a while back, which was antivirus and firewall software, because I happen to use Kaspersky, which is Russian.
Yes.
And the question there's been no advice to change, but my license comes up in 140 days time.
Yes.
And I have to change, and they take the billing automatically. So I'm going to have to change the information on that they've got, so that it won't go through. And I'm actually currently looking for a different firewall and antivirus.
Yeah, I can understand that. Thank you so much, Leigh. We very much enjoyed your course this morning. Thank you. Well, it's a great pleasure now to be in conversation with Mel Hacker, and good to see you, Mel.
Hi, Rachel.
Right. Now, perhaps it's very interesting to observe that you're a Devonian, aren't you?
Yes. Well, we had this conversation yesterday morning. Yeah. So it transpires that I'm very old, and I was born a week before VE Day. So my mum and dad were evacuated to Ilfracombe, and my mum at the time, as far as I can gather, she told me she had 2 jobs. One was working in a munitions factory nearby in Barnstable, and the other was she was working as a waitress in one of the cafes in Ilfracombe, the Swiss caf. So I was born in Devon, and I don't know if you want me to show you. There was this book about North. Yes. Yeah. So there's this author. Her name is Helen Fry. I don't know if you can see that.
She came to the Lady Skills for the talk. That's right.
Yes, she's given talks to the shore, and there was an advert in the JC actually, which unfortunately the advert was 2001, just after my mum passed away, asking for anecdotes from Jews who were living in North Devon during the war years. And I thought about it and thought, well, I just qualified by 1 week. So I gave an interview to Helen, and she gave me a chapter, well, a partial chapter in this book, which I showed you. So, I don't know if you can see it. That's yours truly. And I share a page with Peter Sellers and Joan and Jackie Collins, who were also in that area at the time.
Yeah. Now, I understand there were a lot of Jewish evacuees to the area.
Yeah.
How did that sort of come about, do you think?
Well, I don't know all the detail. There were a lot of Dutch. I think they were called the Hoots.
Yes.
They were in the area at the time, and I think speaking to people of similar age, we were evacuated all over the country. There seems to be no place that we weren't evacuated to.
No, that's
but there
right.
certainly was a large number in Devon during the war years. Certainly.
Yes. No, that's good. And then after the war, then your parents decided to move back to London.
Yeah, I mean, we're all East Enders basically. My dad was born in Brick Lane, and they lived in Brick Lane before the war. My dad and his brother, they were both involved in the. They had shops selling building materials and DIY stuff, and my dad had a stall. He had a stall of Whitechapel Waste and Lever Lane, and I think he was up in Market Road in Islington before the war. So after the war, we lived in what was really a slum. It was a shop on the north side of Brick Lane, north of Bethnal Green Road. And that's where I grew up. I was there till we got rehoused when I was about 18, and we were moved to a housing estate in Marlane Gate, which is also same area, Stepney, East London. Yeah. So I grew up. I'm a single child, and all my memories are happy days. I enjoyed my upbringing. I went to school at Virginia Road Primary School, which is right by Shoreditch Church, and then off to Central Foundation. I see Frank Wackman. Frank is looking in anonymously, but Frank and I were in the same year at school at Cowper Street, which is Central Foundation Boys' School.
Yeah.
My main interest, I think I was telling you yesterday, when I lived in Brick Lane, we were a couple of doors away from a record shop. And on a Sunday morning, there was a street market, and there was a loudspeaker over the front door of the record shop, which blared out the pop music of the age, which of course was Lonnie Donegan and Cliff Richard and the Shadows and all that kind of thing, Elvis. And really, I was hearing music. I didn't really realize it, but I was hearing music which not everybody was hearing, because the BBC didn't play that kind of music. It was very restricted. I think the Musicians Union had a grip, and they wanted a lot more live bands playing on the Light programme. You could hear it on Radio Luxembourg, perhaps, and on AFN. I used to be an avid listener to AFN Europe. This is AFN Europe. So they played a lot of good music too.
Yeah. Well, I think your school actually influenced you as well, because this is where you had a sort of interest in maths and science, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I was never any good at my first French lesson. I was just hopelessly lost from day one. I struggled. I never got an O level in French. Latin a little bit. I was a bit okay with Latin, but no, I struggled with languages, and I was more the scientist than the academic. So, oh, someone's made me a cup of tea. That's nice. Good service.
Put it on TripAdvisor.
Yeah, and I was always pretty good at art. You know, I used to get prizes for art, and ended up doing an A-level art. Yeah.
And just getting back, you know, you were talking about this record shop where they were actually playing music so that you could listen to. This influenced you a bit, didn't it? And
yeah, so when I was about 12, you know, it was a time when skiffle was very predominant in this country. There was trad jazz and there was skiffle and a bit of pop music, a bit of American pop music. But really, tens of thousands of lads, really, more lads than girls, to be fair, pestered their mums and dads for a guitar. And I certainly did. And somewhat reluctantly, my dad bought me a guitar. I don't know, I must have been about 11 or 12, I guess, 12. And taught myself some chords. You know, I didn't have the wit to go out and get a tutor. So I used to listen to the records and work out the chords and build up a repertoire of chords from what was in my head, really. So very much self-taught, as indeed many people of that era were.
That's right. And then I think you formed a band, didn't you, at your Cheder?
Yeah, we had a skiffle group in the Cheder. So
that's quite innovative.
Yeah.
Encourages people to go to.
These, I don't know. But yeah, certainly going back, you know, time I was going back when I was bar mitzvah in 1958. The shul that we remember of was bombed. It was Bethnal Green Great Synagogue, which got bombed during the war. So the shul was in a little steeple, which actually was a pub. Oh. So I had my bar mitzvah in a pub, and upstairs the pub was like an assembly, like it was a communal room, I should say. And I do remember the band did play in that room for a gig. Yeah.
Yes. And then there were lots of Jewish youth clubs at that time as well. I think you said that you joined them.
Yeah, my mum pestered me, oh, you've got to join a club, And I was very reluctant, you know, you might meet girls, you know, stuff like that. So I thought, no, I can't have that. But ultimately, I went to the Cambridge and Hackney Club, which that was my first time inside a Jewish youth club. And I was really impressed because I went into the basement and there was a band rehearsing, and they all had Burns guitars, and I thought, wow, that sounds really good. But I ended up in Brady, in Hanbury Street, and that really was good. I used to do the art class during the week, but on the weekends they had these wonderful socials. There was Yogi Mehr was the leader of the club at the time, and they had bands like Sounds Incorporated playing. They had a band called Buster Michael and the Daybreakers, which ended up as Unit 4+2. Mm-hmm. And you know, a lot of touring bands would actually do shows at the club just for the club dance, which I thought. I mean, I didn't think of it at the time as being particularly amazing, but looking back, it was remarkable.
Yeah. So
I was influenced by all this music. Yes.
Yes. And then I think you met somebody that turned out to be quite influential. You were developing with the band, yeah.
Yeah. So when I was in Calvert Street, I did a sixth form, and I decided to do an A-level art class. And there was just myself and a dear friend who I'm very close to. His name's Terry Thomas. And the two of us did this art class. Neither of us got the A-level, by the way, despite our efforts. I don't think we were particularly well taught, but that's another story.
Yes, yeah.
But one of the first pictorial compositions I did was a band playing it, of course. And Terry picked up on this, and he was a good musician. And I taught Terry to play guitar. And very rapidly, we got together and we formed bands. We played at school dances with the girls' school, which you're aware of, Spittle Square.
Yes.
The Central Foundation Girls' School. So we had school dances. I remember distinctly, I taught myself, I heard the Beatles version of Money, you know, Money is the best. So we learnt it, and we were probably been the first band to play it live on stage other than the Beatles at a school dance.
Oh.
And from then, I think it was downhill all the way, really.
Oh, dear.
It was just like Terry and I, we had endless bands. It was always, he was the lead guitar, I was playing bass, and we had a whole string of different drummers. One of whom, we did a really lengthy audition. I put an ad in the Melody Maker, and I got 100 replies for drummers, and we whittled it down to 2 auditions, which finally whittled down to a guy called Simon Kirk. Simon ended up as the drummer for Free and Bad Company, but I bought Simon his first double drum kit. And he was we had a little 3-piece blues band, which probably was the nicest band I played in. That was called Mayton's Magic Mixture. It was named after a friend of ours, John Mayton, who used to experiment in the chemistry class, and he got up to all sorts of mischief. And Magic Mixture, with Mayton's Magic Mixture, ended up with another different drummer, Jack Collins, and we were a 4-piece band, and we ended up, as I said to you, Saga signed us and gave us a record contract, which resulted in an album, which
show us.
Here's the the eponymous. Can't see it. That's me. So that's Terry Thomas there, and that was as far as it got. They made us all sorts of promises. We were going to play the Isle of Wight Festival and this, that, and the other, but it didn't happen.
Oh, that's a pity, because things could have turned out slightly differently.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. We did do a series of the LCC at the time had some open air concerts, and we played around London in various open air venues. I think I was telling you one of which was Clapham Common.
Yes.
The bandstand there, and there was another one at Abbey Wood, which I remember very distinctly, because we were playing quite well, and the first thing I noticed was an egg flying towards us, which ended up on the Hammond organ trickling down.
Oh my goodness.
So that's the response of the good folk of Abbey Wood for you. Thank you very much.
Oh dear. Well, we'll come back to your musical development, but when you left school, you weren't sure what sort of avenue of interest you were going to sort of take up.
Yeah, so I was always interested in electronics, and Terry and I both got jobs at the BBC as technical jobs. I was working at the White City Telecine maintenance for a while. That lasted about 9 months, and following that, I got various jobs in universities. There was what is now the City University. I was there for a number of years, and then I ended up with a job at Imperial College, Department of Meteorology, which was a postgraduate department where we were studying wind profiles. We had a field station down in Ascot where we used to fly sondes and track them. We actually had an old World War II radar, GL7 radar, which which was amazing. This was like a really ancient radar set, which the army used for tracking ordnance, and we made it work, and we used it to track wind sondes. So we fly weather balloons, and they would release a sonde, which is a sounding instrument, and we track it all the way back to the ground. So that was good fun.
Yeah. But I think you were very modest, because you said at City University you had responsible for the projection and staging, and you had some important big bands there, didn't you? Like the Who.
That's right. Yeah. At City University, the department I was in, the electrical engineering department, were also responsible for the staging. And at that time, in the early 1960s, they used to put on very good concerts, the Students' Union. And they had all the big bands were playing their Traffic and the Who, and our band supported them, which was, again, good fun at the time.
Yes, great.
Yeah.
And following the job at Imperial, I think you had thinking about going to the States, weren't you?
Yeah, I left. I thought, well, I wanted to be more independent. I was always interested in music equipment, and I went off with a friend. We went to the States. It was quite a trauma, because rather mistakenly, I handed in my notice at Imperial College, which I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And my friend and I, we had this trip. We found a very cheap. It was a tour on the QE2 taking you to Manhattan, and we were going to buy a camper van and tour around the States. Which cut a long story short. I had to go to the embassy, and I was interviewed, cross-examined by the American embassy in Grosvenor Square, where there was like a microphone recording my every word and making sure that I had a return ticket before I set out and all this stuff. But they gave me the stamp, and off we went. And I did spend, I got a 90-day. My friend had to come home. So I was on my own in America with time to spare. So I bought myself a 90-day Greyhound bus ticket and went coast to coast. I've got a bit of family in America, so
yes, that helped.
It helped, yeah. I ended up in Los Angeles and Beverly Hills. I've got family in Beverly Hills. So. Yeah, I remember going to the Troubadour Club in Beverly Hills on Christmas, and there were some pretty good acts there, Carly Simon and stuff. And I remember I went up to the bar to get a drink, and I think, I was in my 20s or whatever. I said, "Have you got any ID?" I said, "I'm British. I'm British. I've got my passport." They wouldn't serve me.
Did you think that you might get some playing jobs out there, or was that not possible?
I toured America with a guitar.
Yeah.
I was slapping a suitcase in one hand and a guitar in the other. What an idiot. I did actually, I played played what I knew to some people. Yeah.
So when you returned, did you have sort of ideas what you wanted to do, or you
I kind of felt I wanted to get involved with music and music equipment, and I started dealing in like a wheeler dealer, if you like. I was buying guitars and amplification from people used to advertise in the Melody Maker in those days.
Yes.
And I was able to pick up the paper in the West End, and I used to basically buy stuff and refurbish it and sell it on. So that gave me a good insight into the rock and roll equipment, really. but I wasn't really getting anywhere. Perhaps I should have opened a shop or something. I don't know, but I didn't. I was telling you, I saw this advert in the Melody Maker for it was a service technician's job for a hire company. So I ended up in Market Road, Islington. There was a company called Easy Hire. Easy Hire had rehearsal studios, and they organised tours, and they hired out, rented out equipment to bands, and I was the service technician there. So that got me into the music business by the back door, if you like.
And then some interesting things happened, didn't they?
Yeah. So
with Barbara Dixon.
So I was happy just sort of, changing valves and doing that kind of stuff. But the word got out that the equipment was being toured, so they needed someone to go out with the equipment. So I did my first tour. It was about 1977. There's a backline. I suppose you call them roadies. So we call them technicians.
Yes.
And so I think it was 3 weeks around the country with Barbara Dixon, which was fun. There was one morning. She says to me, "Oh, Mel, would you like to come shopping with me?" She wanted to go to Boots, so ended up shopping with Barbara Dixon. And there was a tour. The Jacksons came over. There was the Kruger brothers were promoting the Jacksons, and they did 3 weeks, and that was also around the country, 2 shows a night, and I was looking after the bass players' equipment, but I did get to see Michael 2 shows a night for 3 weeks, and he was amazing doing this moon dancing. That was great.
Something very special, yes. And then you got a chance to go to Nairobi.
Yeah, so again, the word got around the warehouse that there's an American singer called Millie Jackson. She was doing a show in Nairobi. We were hiring out equipment, and nobody in the warehouse had a passport. And like, after asking everybody if they could come out with the equipment, they gravitated to me. And I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." So my boss, Jerry Slater, the firm Easy Hire was run by two Jewish brothers, actually, Jerry Slater and Norman Slater. And Jerry said to me, go down to Gatwick Airport 2 o'clock tomorrow and get your Kenya Airways flight. So I listened to him like an idiot.
Yeah.
Went down with my suitcase to Gatwick Airport to discover that Kenya Airways fly out of Heathrow. And I had to jump. In those days, there was a thing called the BEA shuttle, which was like a 30-seater Westland helicopter. So my one and only ever flight on a helicopter, I flew from Gatwick to Heathrow just in time to not catch the flight. So can you come back the next day, which I did. And flew down to Nairobi via Cairo. It was great seeing the pyramids from the plane.
Remarkable, yeah.
Yeah.
What did you see? Did you enjoy it being in Nairobi?
Yeah, it was lovely. But you can smell the earth, and the people are very friendly. And we did 4 shows, and there was a gap in between where they took us on a little. Nairobi's got its own little safari park. It wasn't a big deal, but I did get to see some animals out there. So yeah, that was good fun. Yeah.
I think eventually when you came back, you moved to the was it the firm next door?
That's right. Yeah, because the firm Easy Hire, there was another story I shared with you, if you remember, the Sex Pistols story.
Yes. Oh, Leigh will be interested.
I don't know if you want to hear that.
And about Led Zeppelin, I think.
Yeah, well, Led Zeppelin used to rehearse at Easy Hire. I used to fix, I used to I had a PA which they used, and there was a day when I saw this. I was sitting in a van and saw a guy put a guitar in the back of his car, some very lanky, thin waif. And it turns out that the manager said, "Oh, we've lost one of our guitars." And I said, "Well, you know, I saw this chap." Turns out it was Sid. And so the following few weeks went past, I don't know, but there was this confrontation in the office where the manager said to me, there was Sid and there was his girlfriend, Nancy. And Sid looked really wrecked. He had like a waistcoat on with scars, and he wasn't in a good way at all. But the manager said, "Well, tell us what you saw." I said, "Well, I saw this guy here, him. He put the guitar in the back of his car," and Sid sort of lunged at me. Sort of, said, "Oh no, you didn't!" And he almost fell over. So that was that. Anyway, Easy Hire was not particularly well run, and they folded. And I ended up next door. There's a company called John Henry, which is still around now. John's a Scottish lad who is very canny and knows how to make it happen. And he kind of runs the rock and roll industry in a funny. When you watch Jules Holland shows, you'll see the sound is actually. The studio sound is done by John Henry.
I see, yeah.
So I had a few tours with John as well. One of which was James Brown. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
So.
And then after that, you moved on to something completely different, didn't you?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I wanted to earn some money. I thought time to, join the rabble, and so I handed in my notice at John Henry's, and I don't know if that was a good move or not, but anyway, that's what happened. And I 1984, I was running a shop in Moorgate Station, a photofast shop, which I thought would be a way of developing myself. No pun intended.
Yeah. Very good. I like that.
Anyway, that also, the lease ran out there, and that didn't happen. So I was job hunting, and I ended up. I did an interview for a company called Racecourse Technical Services. It was 1987. And it turned out to be a very secure job. They were owned by the Betting Levy Board.
Yes.
And they were responsible for the photo finish and what is called camera patrol, which is television surveillance of horse racing around the United Kingdom. And that's where it ended up. So I spent the next 7 years touring the country, really, in this traveling road show, which is the horse racing industry. People might not know this, but there's 57 horse race courses in the United Kingdom. Newmarket's got 2 separate courses on the same ground. And it's a traveling road show. So when on race day, the jockeys turn up with all these horse boxes, and the integrity service, which is Racecourse Technical Services, or Race Tech as they now call themselves, they turn up and provide the television coverage, which you can see as subscribers or in betting shops all around the world. And it's quite a big deal. They are the largest outside broadcasting organisation in the country. And there's millions and millions of pounds turning over daily on horse racing.
Yeah. So then I think you said the contract fell through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a contract with what is called SIS, Satellite Information Services,
Yeah.
And that was a 5-year contract. It ended in 1992, and they lost the contract because somebody else came along that was better or different. And I got made redundant, which was not good news.
No.
And I gravitated back to working in the music business, and I also bought myself a van. A friend of mine said, "Oh, you know, you can get good money if you do courier driving." So I got a quite a large van and did courier driving, and that was all right. But what happened after a couple of years, Race Tech decided that they wanted me back.
Oh, that's very nice.
like the fools that they are.
Yeah, strange.
So back I go, this time as a freelance and freelance engineer. Oh yeah, various other people seem to want me as well. So I was doing freelance work, and it gravitated. One of the managers at Race Tech said that they were short of camera operators. So I ended up the last 10 years of my working employment, as it were. I was a camera operator for Race Tech in the field. So this involved driving a 7.5 ton. We okay? Sorry, I heard someone. This was driving a 7.5 ton hydraulic hoist around the country.
Oh.
And then on the race course, I'm way out at the back of beyond.
Yes.
30 foot up. You know, you have to set the whole thing up yourself with the cameras and the microwave links and all the rest of it. Solo. It's really exciting. I tell you know, the time just goes zoom, you know, and then you pack up, and then if you don't get bogged into the mud, you're off to the next race course the next day, and on and on and on it goes. It's good fun, I tell you. Try it.
That's wonderful. Now, you know, the rabbi has been talking about Chabad, but then you got involved with Chabad as well, didn't you, in Wimbledon?
Yeah, so when I was employed at Racecourse Technical Services, they're based down in Rains Park, which is southwest London. So I thought, well, it's time to leave home and get a place of my own. And I bought a little flat above a shop in Wimbledon, in Haydens Road. And the first Hanukkah, I had read in the JC that the Lubavitch had moved down. There was a Chabad house in St. George's Road, Wimbledon. Rabbi Dubov and his lovely wife Sarah had moved there, and I hadn't made any contact with them because I was scared. You know, the black hats wasn't what I was used to, and I thought, oh, I don't know about this. But anyway, I'd run out of Hanukkah candles, so I walked up to the Chabad house, timidly knocked on number 42, and Sarah Dubov answered. So I said, "Excuse me, is it possible to get some Hanukkah lights?" And she said, "Are you Jewish?" So I said, "Yeah." "Come inside." So, and of course they had a shop there where they had refrigerated meats. But basically, the South London Chabad house in Wimbledon services most of South London, and it stretches to Slough. I think it stretches all around southeast England. And they're doing a fantastic job. And I got wheeled in. I used to go to adult education classes and so on, and I learned a lot from Rabbi Dubov.
Yeah. And then you met Karen, and eventually
well, the truth
to Wembley.
The truth be told, Karen and I had known each other quite a while. I'll spare you the details of how we met. It'd be a bit embarrassing, but we were always friends. And Karen's mum and dad, well, at the time, Karen's dad passed away quite early. So her mum was running this kosher catering outfit called Ace Caterers, who had a very good reputation.
Yes.
So at the behest of Karen's mum, she kept pestering, oh, you know, the hall, they had the Max Fayman Hall in Bronsbury Synagogue.
Yeah.
Oh, the hall was available in March. I thought, oh, I don't know. And then September the 1st, the hall was available, and I said, okay, let's do the deed and get married. So the rest is history. We were married in Notting Hill Synagogue. Everything I'm involved with, by the way, falls apart. So, you know, all the East End shuls I went to, they're all falling apart. The Federation closed them one by one. And Notting Hill shul, which is also a Federation shul, that sadly, I mean, I have to say, I don't know why it got closed. I feel it could have kept going, but
Yes.
anyway. The people there decided to close it, but we were probably the last people to get married in Notting Hill Synagogue.
Oh, lovely, yeah. And then you've got a connection, you know, continued connection with your Nelson Street, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've always maintained my Federation membership, and that has ended up with being a member of what is called the East London Synagogue, which is Nelson Street, which is a building which was built in 1923, which the Federation would, to be fair to them, would disappear. And rather sadly, 2 years ago, entirely due to lack of maintenance, a part of the coving on the internal structure fell to the ground. And the shul has been seen to be unsafe for human davening ever since. And despite all our attempts, the Federation have remained stagnant and have done nothing about it.
Oh, that's terrible, really. Now, you're very modest, Mel, but you've got a very big involvement locally with, first of all, trying to prevent Brent from closing their local libraries, but then you came to the fore, didn't you?
Well, Brent, I mean, people call Barmy Brent.
Yeah.
One of Brent's claims to fame, it was in 2011, there was a consultation document which Brent Council took very much to their hearts. Brent had 12 public libraries, and they decided to close half of them. And one of the ones that they closed was a lovely little branch library in Carlton Avenue East, which was called Preston Library. And there were meetings, and to cut long story short, I got together with some friends. I didn't know these people at all, but since that time, we formed what was called Friends of Preston Library, and then there was also, at the same time, there was a lady, Jackie Bunce-Linsell, in Preston Road. She had a notary's office. She registered a charity called Preston Community Library, and she was running a little library from her notary shop in Preston Road. And we thought, well, it's silly having two different organisations, so we kind of amalgamated, and we now have the one charity, which is called Preston Community Library. I'm the joint treasurer, and we kept the library going. Basically, the council were supportive to a degree, so the building in Carlton Avenue East was used periodically as a library, and then they found that there was shortage of school spaces, so it got converted into a primary school annex. Yeah. And then they decided, no, we've got plenty of school spaces, you can have your library back. So we got the library back, and then they decided, no, we own the ground, we're going to develop the site, you know, alluding to what Leigh was saying, you know, every spare centimetre of space in Brent, what they have control over will end up as housing, which is fair enough. So The building currently has been demolished. It was demolished at the end of last year. The library, Preston Community Library, is now located in Ashley Gardens, which is about a couple of 100 yards down Preston Road towards traffic lights for East Lane. On the bend in the road, there's a little turn.
Yes, I
called
know.
Ashley.
Yeah.
So that's where we're located. Currently open this afternoon from 3:30 to 5:30, and on Saturdays. So there we have it.
Yeah.
And the promise is that they're going to rebuild on the existing the Carlton Avenue site with a new library on the ground floor to replace what they demolished.
Yes. Well, you've done a tremendous amount locally, and
Thank you.
yeah, so I want to say thank you very much, Mel, for that. I'm sure the
Okay,
residents appreciate it as well.
I'll spare you all the details about residents associations.
Yeah.
But that was another
fundraising aspect as well, you know,
Yeah.
so that it's a hub of activity for the people living in that area. Thank you so much, Mel.
Thanks, Rochelle. Thanks a lot. Enjoyed
Very
that.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And also thank you to Leigh for
Welcome.
your invaluable reportage, as it were. And thank you also to Morris, our technical director this morning. Thank you very much, everybody. It's
Mel,
good to
that
see you
was
all.
Shikaya
Thank you,
Rochelle.
Mel.
Mel,
Thank
that,
you, Leigh.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Mel, that was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely.
Cheers.
Thank
Yeah.